In what is likely a very harsh end to his career, Paul Pogba has been deemed unable to prove that he accidentally took banned substances and has been banned for 4 years. Wow, not what I expected to wake up to yesterday. Leap day. But hello, we will break down all of that Pogba news for you guys so you know exactly what's going on with his ban, as well as some more positive things in Serie A, the Bundesliga, LaLiga, and the Premier League. More positive depends on who exactly you support, right? Also, trust me, I know what you're thinking. I know. Adrian, what's that sick kit that you pulled out of your kit collection of curiosities? This, my friends, is none other than PKR Sveiriang FC from Cambodia, courtesy of my friends over at Sangalo, the coolest, most unique kit shop on the internet. Finding official kits for clubs from Asia and Africa is difficult, but it's made easier through Sangalo, who are helping clubs from Cambodia, Singapore, India, Vietnam, Senegal, Zimbabwe, and more by making their kits accessible to the world. So if you want to buy some unique kits for your collection, make sure you use the link in the description of this video and then enter the code RabonaTV, all one word, at checkout to get 10% off of your order. Thank you, Sangalo. You guys are doing incredible work. And let's start with Pogba. Instead of player of the month in the monthly recap, which is kind of meaningless, I think we'll have a rotating feature each month, which can be on a certain player, concept, or competition. Last month, we did AFCON. This month, we'll do Pogba. Now, I already did an in-depth video on Pogba and his entire situation, which I have linked to in the description. So if you want the full background on everything, including when the tests took place and all of the gory details, I would look to that video as it explains everything in far more depth. I also go over other examples of similar situations. But here's the quick version. After Juve's match against Udinese in August of 2023, of which Pogba was an unused substitute, he had to partake in a random drug test. This is normal. It happens after almost every match, basically. But as mentioned, they are random. So in theory, a player could go through a long period of time where they aren't tested at all, or they could go through a period of time where they're tested after pretty much every match. Luck of the draw, you know? So it came out in early September that Pogba's test contained traces of a banned substance. When that happens, they then test the B sample, as they always test twice to ensure that there is consistency in the testing and no anomalies. Of which, yes, it was found in October of 2023 that the B sample also contained the banned substance. By the way, the banned substance is DHEA, a substance that causes the body to increase the production of testosterone. Now, at this point, given that there was no question that the banned substance was present in Pogba's samples, it came down to a question of just how long his ban would be. With this kind of substance, the window is typically between 2 to 4 years for the ban. The range, of course, being dependent upon whether the accused can prove that they took the substance accidentally or deliberately. You take it on purpose, maximum ban, 4 years. Now, as I went over in the previous video, there have been cases such as Atalanta's Jose Luis Palomino's case in 2022, where he was able to prove that he had accidentally taken a banned substance and his ban was actually dropped. Andre Onana is another case. He ended up going to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, of which they ruled that there was, quote, no significant fault, end quote, on Onana, but given an athlete is still responsible for putting the substance in their body, it wasn't forced down his throat or anything, he still served some time on the sidelines. But it wasn't a massive 4-year ban. So with Pogba, as it was deemed that he wasn't able to prove that he had taken the substance accidentally, he was given a 4-year ban. Now, he will still fight this. He will take the same route as Andre Onana. As Pogba said in a statement, quote, when I am free of legal restrictions, the full story will become clear, but I have never knowingly or deliberately taken any supplements that violate anti-doping regulations. As a professional athlete, I would never do anything to enhance my performance by using banned substances and have never disrespected or cheated fellow athletes and supporters of any of the teams I have played for or against. As a consequence of the decision announced today, I will appeal this before the Court of Arbitration for Sport. But there's a high likelihood that he won't be completely absolved and he'll still have to serve a 1 or 2 year ban. The thing is, while this appeal process is ongoing, he will continue to be sidelined. Also, I mentioned this in the in-depth video, but he can't just escape to Saudi Arabia to play club football, as the Saudi Pro League also complies with the World Anti-Doping Agency's rules, so his ban there would be upheld. So if this does turn out to be a 4-year ban, that will put Pogba at 34 years old in 2028, and he will not have played professional football since 2023. That's 5 years without professional football. And so you can see how this could, and again, I don't say this definitively, but this could be a career-ending ban, which is pretty sad, man. Try to look past the football and look at it from a human level. This will be a massive, massive hit to the mental health of Paul Pogba. People are incredibly cynical when it comes to him. I get it. But I believe that the man truly just wants to play football at this point. And after the years of injuries, the blackmail from his own brother, and now this, that's a pretty brutal run for Paul Pogba. Who knows? The Court of Arbitration for Sport may find that he had unknowingly taken it, and he will have his ban reduced to a year or something like that, which will likely put him out until 2025 or 2026. Still not ideal for him, but certainly much more realistic that he could find a club that's willing to take him on, help him get back to match fitness, and see if they can get something close to a decent Paul Pogba again. That will still be 2 to 3 years out. And by the way, what does this mean for Juve? According to some sources, I'm not a labor lawyer, so I don't know for sure, but judging from the sources I've read in researching this, Juve could now potentially request the termination of Paul Pogba's contract, as intentionally doping is a major breach of contract. Anyway, that's the situation with Paul Pogba. I'll provide another update once the CAS verdict is out, but that won't be for a while. Well, may as well start with Juve and Serie A. No, compared to last season, they have still had an incredibly positive campaign, as at one point they were within touching distance of Inter Milan at the top of the table. However, their form to start the month off was brutal. They lost 1-0 in the Derby d'Italia for starters, but there's no shame there, as Inter are an incredible side at this moment. We'll get to them later, kind of. They followed that up with a 1-0 loss at home to Udinese, which is inexcusable, and then drew 2-2 away to Hellas Verona, a team that is relegation bait at the moment. However, they bounced back this past weekend with a last-minute 3-2 win over Frosinone. Dusan Vlahovic was on fire in that one, as he scored twice and set up Daniele Rugani's 94th minute winner as well. Vlahovic with 3 goals and an assist in 3 appearances in February. Tough run of matches coming up for them. Napoli have life breathed into them again, and then they take on Atalanta, who have been very strong this season. Speaking of Napoli, they of course fired interim manager Walter Mazzarri this month, as his tenure was absolutely disastrous, man, just like the guy before him, Rudi Garcia. He was sacked following Napoli's draw with Genoa on the 17th of February, but prior to that, he had lost to AC Milan as well. In steps Francesco Calzona, a man with a great history at Napoli, but mainly as an assistant to both Spalletti and Maurizio Sarri back in the day. He's currently the boss of the Slovakian national team, and so far, so good. He got a 1-1 draw with Barcelona, then another draw in Serie A against Cagliari, and then a massive 6-1 win away to Sassuolo. Osimhen's return can't be understated for Napoli. Since returning from AFCON, he has scored 5 and assisted once in 3 matches. Big week since his return, and Napoli in general are a team to watch out for at the moment. Interested to see if Calzona can really harness the spirit of both Sarri and Spalletti in Napoli again. And since we mentioned them before, let's talk about Atalanta. I was a bit embarrassed last season, as I was really riding hard for Charles de Ketelaere, and it was super puzzling to see how he struggled at AC Milan. He just didn't work out under Stefano Pioli at all. But with the guidance of Gasperini at Atalanta, he has looked like the true talent that I saw from his Club Brugge days. 10 goals and 6 assists across all competitions for Atalanta. He started the month really well with 3 goals in 2 matches, but has cooled since. Atalanta had to play both of the Milan clubs, and while they got a draw against AC Milan to extend their unbeaten run to 10 matches, looking great, they were humbled by Inter, absolutely slapped by them, 4-0. Mind you, Gasperini hasn't defeated Inter since 2018. That's going back 12 matches, losing 5 in a row now. But Atalanta have been impressive again this season, as you'll see when we go over the standings later. That might surprise you if you haven't been following Italy. Another team that we must speak about is Bologna, as they won every single game in February. Every single game, as they are flying. Josh Zirkzee has finally begun to deliver on the potential and is becoming the player he promised to be while at Bayern. He's looking great and will definitely be a sought-after striker next summer, and I have also been loving watching Orsolini. He has always been a dangerous player, but inconsistent player. Not the case under Thiago Motta. Currently, he has them in a Champions League place. Bologna in a Champions League place. Massive well done to Motta and Bologna. Things have gone well for AS Roma since the sacking of Mourinho, as in February we saw Roma score more goals and look quite strong in general. Across all competitions they won 4, drew 1, and lost 1, but in Serie A in particular they lost to Inter, but beat Frosinone, Cagliari, and Torino. Not the most difficult of opposition, but a positive change at Roma so far under Daniele De Rossi. AC Milan started the month well with 3 consecutive wins, but these guys just can't stay consistent at the moment. They lost 4-2 to Monza, that's a bad look, and then drew Atalanta 1-1 at home. No shame there. Big match against Lazio today, and then a test against Slavia Praha in the Europa League round of 16 this month. So jumping to the standings, we'll start at the bottom where Salernitana haven't improved since sacking Pippo Inzaghi on the 11th of February. They still only have 13 points from 26 matches. I'm no mathematician, but my guess is that that is not a good points per match average. Then we have a hat-trick of teams on 20 points in Cagliari, Sassuolo, and Hellas Verona. Sassuolo sacked Dionisi on the 25th of February, and the caretaker manager Emiliano Bigica oversaw Sassuolo getting slapped 6-1 by Napoli at home. So welcome to the big league, my friend. I wish you well. Good luck out there. Now at the top, you'll notice I didn't speak much about Inter because I just did a massive video on Inter that you absolutely have to watch. It's one of my favorite videos I've produced lately, and what they are doing this season is absolutely amazing, as evidenced by them thrashing a hot Atalanta 4-0 just the other day. Lautaro is in incredible form. The whole side is, as we are seeing a team that is almost perfectly executing on their manager's philosophy, the best attack and the best defense in the top 5 leagues. Inter are scary. Speaking of Lautaro, he is the top scorer by a long shot with 23 goals to Vlahovic's 15. Not so close at the moment, while Olivier Giroud has overtaken Marcus Thuram in the assists column. As for clean sheets, if you've watched my video on Inter, then you will already know this, but of course it's Jan Sommer with 16 in Serie A, a ridiculous feat, 22 on the season from 33 appearances. Wild stuff from the Swiss keeper and the defense. Clean sheets are attributed to keepers, but people forget it's the defenders, even the midfielders, that help facilitate that as well. So shout out to Sommer and the boys. Over in Germany, it was another wild month for Bayern as it was announced that Thomas Tuchel will be leaving at the end of the season. Absolutely no surprise there. And no surprise that they announced that 24 hours after I had just done a video analyzing the whole Bayern situation. Thank you, boys. Appreciate it. Anyway, pre-announcement, Bayern had won against Gladbach to kick off the month, but lost their next 2 Bundesliga matches of the month, one against Leverkusen, whom we will give their flowers very shortly, and then against Bochum. No bueno. That was, of course, compounded by the fact that days prior, Bayern lost away to Lazio in the Champions League, who, well, we didn't even speak about them. They're in 8th place in Serie A at the moment and having a tough season themselves. But following the Tuchel as Audi announcement, Bayern didn't play incredibly well against RB Leipzig at home, but did get a late winner from Harry Kane. So a net positive, 2 wins, 2 losses domestically, as Bayern have fallen behind the incredible Bayer Leverkusen. Another month without a single loss for Xabi Alonso's incredible unbeaten side. These guys are ridiculous. No losses in any competitions this season, and in February, they leveled up by winning every single match they played in, including that 3-0 demolition of Bayern, which was a really crazy match to watch. I hope you watched that one. They had a few squeaky wins, such as their 2-1 victories over Mainz and Heidenheim. But hey, they are victories all the same. Now that they have some of their players returning from AFCON, injuries, and the Asian Cup, they will gain in power. Their first match in March is against a struggling Köln side, relegation candidates. And then they have their Europa matches against Karabakh. We are watching you, Leverkusen. Can they finally drop the Neverkusen moniker? It feels like it. I don't want to jinx it though. The team whose form is only second to Leverkusen, VfB Stuttgart, who continue to have a dream season under Sebastian Hoeneß. While Serhou Guirassy was away at AFCON, Deniz Undav stepped up with the goals for Stuttgart. This month wasn't his most prolific of the season, but he scored twice and assisted twice. He's on 14 goals for the season right now. Him on 14 and Guirassy on 18 is pretty nuts. Stuttgart undefeated in February with 3 wins and a draw. What a season, man. Dortmund had the opposite of that. In fact, it was even worse than that, as they had just a single victory, 3-0 over Freiburg. That's great. And then draws against Wolfsburg and Heidenheim. And this past weekend, they lost 3-2 at home to Hoffenheim. Terzic, my brother, you are making it far too easy for those who do not believe in you. Given how he was on the hot seat in December, I get the feeling that if they are to go away to Union Berlin this weekend and not get a victory against them, then Terzic will be in big trouble, man. Because Union Berlin has improved recently, yes, but they're still just above the relegation playoff spot. And failure to beat them, Dortmund then have to go away to Werder Bremen, the same dudes who beat Bayern last month and are in some good form right now. So it's an important month for Dortmund, as they also have PSV at home in the Champions League in a winner-takes-all situation. Hot seat. As mentioned at the bottom of the table, both Köln and Mainz are in trouble, while Darmstadt is as well, unsurprisingly so. Don't take Köln and Mainz away, man. Let them live. Of course, at the top, you have Leverkusen with an 8-point lead now over Bayern, and finally, everyone has played the same amount of matches, so there is no glasses pushing, well, if you consider the fact that they could indeed win their match in hand, blah, 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 from Adrian this week, which is great. We don't like hearing all that stuff. Harry Kane is torching the entire league with 27 goals, and there are still 11 matches to go here. Fantastic from him. Nobody's close. His teammate Leroy Sané also leads the assist column, but then you have the lovely duo of Florian Wirtz and Alex Grimaldo. Love seeing Grimaldo thrive at Leverkusen. What a player he is. Clean sheet see Hradecky at the top of the list. No surprise there, really. Shout out to my man Hradecky. Looking good for Leverkusen. Know what's crazy to see? Manchester United, the team in 6th in the Premier League, actually have an even goal difference right now. It's very jarring to see them in 6th with the same amount of goals scored as conceded. They don't score much, mind you, just 36 goals, which is the lowest out of all of the teams in the top 12. Joint lowest, I should say, with Fulham, who they lost to recently. Honestly, most of the month was positive for United until that last minute loss to Fulham on the 24th. Prior to that, they had won 5 matches consecutively, including 4 on the trot in the Premier League against Wolves, West Ham, Villa, and Luton Town. On top of that, Rasmus Højlund was really catching some form, scoring in 6 consecutive Premier League matches, the youngest player to do so. He also scored in the FA Cup, and then he got injured. Poor luck for United, but still unconvincing tactically from Ten Hag. I still don't know what United's identity is. But they have 2 bright spots in Højlund and the brilliant Kobbie Mainoo at the moment. So, hey, there's that. Tottenham played just 3 matches in the Premier League this month as their form has been quite spotty. They grabbed 1 of each result, a win, a draw, a loss, the worst of which being a 2-1 loss to Wolves at home. And speaking of Wolves, moving right along here, they have become a tricky side. They have an upset in them from time to time, don't they? They lost to United and Brentford in February, but beat Spurs, Sheffield United, and Chelsea. So Gary O'Neill's boys can hurt you on their day. You can't sleep on Wolves. It's not an automatic victory for anybody. Speaking of Chelsea, they of course found a way to lose to a completely depleted Liverpool side in the League Cup final this past weekend, which was a shame for them as some silverware probably would have benefited this side that is constantly getting stick from everyone, including their own supporters. And what an opportunity it was to beat Liverpool as Klopp was forced to roll out the academy boys that only some of the most committed Liverpool supporters had heard of prior. Yes, Chelsea had a lower average age at the beginning, blah, 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 but that's kind of a cop-out, as Chelsea's players all have much more experience at this top level than the academy boys that Klopp brought out, you know? Anyway, it's also a shame for Chelsea as they were getting some great results. That performance against Man City, for example, was quite nice. They beat Palace. They beat Aston Villa in the FA Cup. That loss to Wolves was the only other blemish in their month, which was quite the blemish, losing 4-2. But they ended with a win over Leeds in the FA Cup. A close one, but they did it. Liverpool just had 1 blemish on their record this past month, which was the 3-1 loss to Arsenal at the very beginning of the month. They did, however, follow that up with 3 consecutive victories over Burnley, Brentford, and Luton Town in the Premier League. The League Cup victory was Klopp's 8th piece of silverware with Liverpool and his 2nd League Cup with Liverpool. They are still in the Europa League. They are still in the FA Cup thanks to their youngsters again coming up clutch against Southampton. And the title race will hopefully be one of the best we've ever seen. Man City had an unbeaten month, as in the Premier League in particular. They had 4 wins and a draw, the aforementioned draw with Chelsea. With Haaland and De Bruyne both healthy, their link up has picked up where they left off. It's been unreal. Well, the bulk of that happened in the FA Cup, where Haaland and De Bruyne connected for 4 of Haaland's 5 goals on the night. Insane. By the way, if I was doing a player of the month, I think De Bruyne and his 7 assists and 1 goal in the month of February would have been the guy. he would have been the guy, pal. Aston Villa are still there or thereabouts in the top 4. Unai Emery isn't playing around this season as Villa have a 5-point lead over Tottenham, which is nuts. It's a bit underrated just how well they're doing. I mean, I could be wrong there, as my head hasn't been in the English media lately at all, so maybe people are raving about Villa. But from my point of view, the fact that they are almost in the title race is mind-blowing. Not in it, but just outside. And finally, Arsenal's win over Liverpool really blew it wide open. I mean, a Liverpool win on the day wouldn't have been definitive in any way, but still, that really put the wind in their sails, Arsenal's that is, as they followed that up with a 6-0 win away to West Ham, a 5-0 win away to Burnley, and then a 4-1 win against Newcastle, a team that is massively struggling at the moment. But Arsenal, besides that loss to Porto away where they looked horrible, they responded well back in the Premier League. That Newcastle victory made it 6 consecutive victories for Arsenal. And so at the top of the table, what a race we have. 60, 59, 58, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal. There is no room for anyone to slip up. But as I was saying, look at Aston Villa. Not in the title race per se, but their proximity to it is super impressive. At the bottom, the usual suspects. All 3 of the sides that were promoted look like they could be relegated. The one thing that shocks me a bit is how poor Brentford have been, just above the relegation zone. With Tony returning, that hasn't helped their case at all, has it? Now to the goals, with Salah playing a single match in February and scoring just once, Haaland added 3 to his tally to take a 2-goal lead over the Egyptian in the goals race. Watkins, Bowen, and Solanke not far off either. 3-way tie for the assists with Gross, Trippier, and Ollie Watkins. Big up Watkins. What a season from him. 3-way tie for clean sheets as well. Again, Pickford and Everton would be in a great position if not for that pesky point deduction. The teams at the top of LaLiga had some mixed results in February, but one thing is for certain, the leaders, Real Madrid, have begun pulling away from the rest of the pack. Los Blancos alternated between wins and draws, 1-1 draws with Atleti and Rayo Vallecano, wins over Getafe, Sevilla, and most notably that 4-0 domination of Girona. Bellingham and Vinicius were just absolute menaces in that match. Their most recent victory, however, was that 1-0 win over Sevilla with Luka Modric getting the winner. It looks like his time with Real Madrid is finally coming to an end as he has no longer been utilized by Carlo Ancelotti. The more youthful players have overtaken him in the pecking order, and given Real Madrid's policy with aging players, as soon as you aren't incredibly useful week in, week out, you are on your way out, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens there. Girona suffered quite the hangover from that drubbing from Real Madrid. From there, they lost 3-2 away to Athletic, which, by the way, is not shameful in any way, as Athletic are fantastic this season. More on them in a sec. But thankfully for Michel and the boys, they could bounce back immediately with a 3-0 win over Rayo Vallecano. Savio with a late brace to make that one more comfortable for them. Atletico, hop on the roller coaster, my man. Actually, it was more like an elevator to hell in February across all competitions. They drew Real Madrid in La Liga to start things off. Cool. That's not a bad start. Then they lost in the Copa del Rey 1-0. Then they lost to Sevilla 1-0. Sevilla, who are only a couple of victories above the relegation zone at the moment. The one bright spot for Atletico supporters was a commanding 5-0 victory over Las Palmas before they then drew against Almeria. You see what I mean? Not a good month, especially when you factor in the Copa del Rey elimination embarrassment that they had. That came at the hands of Athletic Club, who lost 3-1 away to Real Betis this month, but Valverde's boys were strong otherwise. They had the aforementioned win over Girona as well, the 3-2, and a draw against Almeria that was quite forgettable, let's be real. The Williams connection has been shining though, and Iñaki getting moved to the right from striker at the beginning of the season has really been a massive benefit to Athletic's attack. The Williams brothers on each flank is scary, but a beautiful sight to see. And guess who they play next? They have a match at the San Mamés against FC Barcelona in what looks like a great opportunity for Valverde to get some revenge against his former side. I mean, eliminating them in the Copa del Rey was also a nice helping of revenge, wasn't it? Also, Athletic in the Copa del Rey final again. Amazing. And why not speak on Barca? The waters have calmed there following the Xavi bombshell, and things are looking much better compared to January. They won 3 and drew 1 in February, including a nice 4-0 win over Getafe this past weekend. But what I think has been a major boost for them will have been the return to form of Robert Lewandowski. No, he didn't score against Getafe, but in all competitions, he scored in 4 consecutive matches in February, notching 5 goals. That's a much better return from the Polish striker. They do have a difficult schedule coming up in March as they play Athletic this weekend, then Mallorca, who just made the Copa del Rey final themselves, then Napoli, and then a trip to the Metropolitano to take on Atletico. You never know what will happen with Atletico these days. Metropolitano is typically a fortress, but they did lose to Athletic there recently, and they are on that elevator to hell still, so we'll see if they can get off of it. As mentioned, Real Madrid has a decent lead now at the top of the table, 6 points separating them from Girona, with Barca on 57. Athletic Club is closing in on Atletico, by the way. They gotta watch over their shoulders, or else Champions League football could be an issue for Atletico. At the bottom, Almeria are horrendous with just 9 points, while Granada is on 14 and Cadiz rounds out the bottom 3 with 18. Celta, you are not safe. Watch out, guys. Jude Bellingham is still La Liga's top scorer, which I really thought someone else would have caught him by now. But this is La Liga, a league that has seen the number of goals scored decline season upon season. Assists, Alejandro Baena of Villarreal, who is on 8 and is 13th place Villarreal's bright spot. And Unai Simon leads the clean sheet charts. Watch out for Lunin though. I know you can't see him here, but he is on 7 already and climbing given his great form. All right. That's it. A long video has come to an end. Thanks so much for watching this. And if you're still here, wow, I mean, credit to you. I think I love you. I don't know. Anyways, thanks again, guys, and be well. Ciao.